A 3-year-old golden retriever ran desperately up to a group of 23 bikers stopped at a gas station. The dog was shaking, bleeding, panting. When the club president bent down to check the collar, he saw something that made his blood run cold. An engraved address, a name, and 3 handwritten words, "Please help me." 47 minutes later, 200 bikers from 8 different clubs surrounded an isolated mansion 8 miles down the road. What they found inside was worse than any battlefield they had ever seen. And the owner of that mansion learned that some crimes can't be bought off. The dog's name was Apollo, purebred golden retriever, 3 years and 5 months, a golden coat that should have shone in the sun, brown eyes that should have been gentle and trusting, 70 pounds when he should have weighed 80. But on that Saturday, September 14th, 2024, Apollo barely looked like a golden retriever. His coat was filthy, matted, with patches of dried blood, ribs visible beneath his fur, left hind paw dragging, possibly broken, a deep cut above his right eye, still bleeding, a torn ear, cigarette burns on his snout. Apollo originally belonged to Mary Ann Smith, 72, the widow of a veteran. Her husband, Colonel James Smith, served in Vietnam and Iraq. He died in 2022 from complications related to Agent Orange exposure, leaving Mary Ann alone in their 3-bedroom house in Pinecrest, Georgia. Mary Ann adopted Apollo as a puppy in 2021. He was her companion, her reason to wake up, her comfort after losing her love of 48 years. Apollo slept at the foot of her bed, ate in the kitchen at 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. sharp. He got 3 walks a day. He was loved. Then Mary Ann got sick, pancreatic cancer, stage 4, diagnosed in March 2024. The doctors gave her 6 months. She had insurance, but it didn't cover everything. The medical bills hit $340,000 in 4 months. She burned through her savings, sold her jewelry, took a loan against the house. It wasn't enough. In July, Mary Ann was admitted to hospice. She couldn't care for Apollo anymore. She had no close family. Her 2 children had died, one in a car accident in 2008, the other from an overdose in 2015. She needed someone to take Apollo temporarily. That's when the nephew showed up. Derek Smith was 38 and the black sheep of the Smith family, Mary Ann's distant cousin. They hadn't spoken in 15 years. But when Derek heard Mary Ann was dying and had a house valued at $480,000, he suddenly took an interest. Derek had been an addict for 12 years, mostly meth. Cocaine, too, when he could afford it. He'd been through rehab 4 times. All failed. He had a criminal record. 3 arrests for possession, 2 for theft, 1 for assault. He didn't work. He lived off petty scams. Stole from family, fenced stolen goods. He owed money to dangerous dealers, $47,000 in mounting debts. Derek lived in an abandoned house on the outskirts of Pinecrest, a condemned structure he was squatting in. No running water, electricity siphoned from a nearby pole, trash piled high, a sickening stench of mold, urine, and chemicals. 3 other addicts lived with him, all involved in a homegrown meth operation. The house was a makeshift meth lab, extremely dangerous and illegal. When Derek visited Mary Ann in hospice that August, she was desperate. "Derek," she said, her voice weak, "I need someone to look after Apollo, just for a few weeks, until I pass. Afterward, please find a good family for him." Derek saw an opportunity. "Of course, Aunt Mary Ann," he lied. "I'll take great care of him. You don't have to worry about a thing." Mary Ann, medicated and desperate, believed him. She gave Apollo to Derek on August 15th, along with $800 for food and vet care. Derek spent the $800 on drugs in 3 days, and Apollo's nightmare began. For the first 3 days, Derek kept Apollo locked in a windowless basement. No food, no water. Apollo barked and cried for hours. Derek went down and kicked him 3 times. "Shut up or I'll kill you," he screamed. Apollo stopped barking. On the 4th day, one of Derek's roommates, named Travis, decided to have some fun with Apollo. He held Apollo's snout shut and burned it with a lit cigarette. Apollo screamed. Travis laughed. He did it 5 more times. On the 8th day, Derek was tweaking hard, paranoid, violent. He went down to the basement. He kicked Apollo's ribs repeatedly. Apollo tried to defend himself, yelping. Derek grabbed a piece of metal pipe and smashed it against Apollo's hind leg. It broke. Apollo couldn't stand for 2 days. On the 12th day, Derek tried to sell Apollo. He posted an ad on a shady website. Golden Retriever, $300. 2 interested buyers backed out after seeing the dog's condition over video. On the 15th day, another roommate tried to force Apollo to fight a neighbor's pit bull for money. Apollo refused. He earned a deep gash in his ear for it. No one took him to a vet. Apollo survived by eating garbage scraps when he could reach them, drinking filthy water from a puddle on the basement floor, sleeping on cold, damp concrete, losing weight, losing hope. But Apollo was smart. He watched, he waited, he learned their patterns. Every Thursday around 2 p.m., Derek and the others would leave for 3 to 4 hours on business, selling drugs and collecting debts. They left a side door unlocked, classic addict paranoia. They figured someone would rob them from the front, but not the back. On Thursday, September 12th, Apollo waited until he heard the car leave. He used his remaining strength to push open the basement door. Rusty hinges. It didn't latch. He dragged himself up the stairs, crossed the filthy kitchen, nudged the side door open with his snout, and ran, broken paw dragging, bleeding, exhausted but free. He didn't know where to go. Mary Ann wasn't at the old house. A new family had moved in. Apollo was disoriented. So he did what dogs do. He followed the smell of food. That led him to the Shell gas station on Highway 23, 3 miles down the road, where 23 bikers from the Iron Brotherhood MC were stopped, resting during a ride to a charity event. Vincent Warhorse McCoy was fueling up his Harley when he saw the dog. At first it looked like just another lost mutt, but then he recognized the breed. A golden retriever, an expensive purebred dog. Something was very wrong. The dog was limping terribly, bleeding, desperate eyes. "Hey guys," Warhorse called out to the other 22 bikers, "we got a situation here." Marcus Tank Miller walked over. He had 2 Goldens at home. He immediately recognized the signs of abuse. "My God," Miller murmured, kneeling. "What did they do to you?" Apollo approached hesitantly, trembling, expecting to be kicked. But Miller held out his hand gently. Apollo sniffed it. Then, for the first time in 28 days, he felt a kind touch. He started to cry, not barking, crying, the sound dogs make when they're broken on the inside. Raymond "Doc" Patterson, a former combat medic, was already assessing the injuries. "Broken hind leg, untreated, at least 2 weeks old," Doc said, his voice tense. "Cigarette burns on the snout. Deep cut above the eye, infected. Severe malnutrition, critical dehydration, clear signs of systemic abuse." "He got a collar?" Warhorse asked. Miller checked, yes. A filthy old red nylon collar. It had a metal tag, but it wasn't a normal tag. It was deeply engraved. Name Apollo. Address 847 Maple Drive, Pinecrest, GA. Phone 706-552847. And below that, handwritten in permanent marker, 3 words that changed everything. "Please, help me." The bikers fell silent. "Someone wrote this on there," Miller said, his voice shaking. "Someone knew he needed help and couldn't do anything themselves." Warhorse pulled out his phone. He called the number on the collar. Voicemail. "You've reached Mary Ann Smith. I can't come to the phone. Please leave a message." He called information, asked for an address check. The operator came back. "That address is registered to a Mary Ann Smith, 72, but public records show she's been a patient at Pinecrest Hospice since August." The pieces started clicking into place. "She's dying," Doc said softly. "And she gave the dog to someone. Someone who did this to him." "Who writes, 'Please help me,' on a dog's collar?" Another biker named Diaz asked. "Someone who knew," Warhorse answered. someone who knew the person taking the dog was dangerous, and they used their last conscious act to ask for help. He looked at the 22 men surrounding him. "We're going to find out who did this," Warhorse said, "and we're going to have a very serious conversation with them." Jake Ghost Thompson was a club member and a former NYPD criminal investigator. Retired after 28 years, he still had contacts. While Doc treated Apollo at the station, water, light food, a temporary wrap on his leg, Ghost made calls. First call, Pinecrest Hospice. "Yes, Mary Ann Smith is with us," the receptionist confirmed. "She's a terminal patient. Admitted July 23rd, critical condition." "Does she get visitors?" Ghost asked. "Just one, a nephew named Derek Smith. Came once in August. He took her dog." "Can you give me his address?" "I'm not authorized to—" "It's an animal welfare case," Ghost interrupted. "Severe abuse. I can get a warrant, but that will take hours. Hours this dog doesn't have." A pause, then. 847 Maple Drive. Same as Mrs. Smith's. He said he'd be staying there temporarily. Ghost thanked her and hung up. Second call, a contact at the local PD. "Derek Smith?" the sergeant repeated. "Oh, I know him. Extensive sheet, heavy user, violent when he's high. Got an active warrant for parole violation." "Is he at 847 Maple Drive?" Ghost asked. "Negative," the sergeant replied. "That house was sold. New family moved in last month. Derek probably lied to his aunt. Last we heard, he's squatting in an abandoned house at 1243 Route 9. It's a known drug house. Dangerous." Ghost wrote it down, thanked him, hung up. He turned to Warhorse. "I've got an address," he said. "Abandoned house, meth lab, multiple occupants, probably armed." Warhorse looked at Apollo, who was drinking water desperately from the bowl Doc had improvised. "How many of us are here?" Warhorse asked. 23, Miller answered. "Not enough," Warhorse said. "We're going to need more." He pulled out his phone. He made a conference call to 7 numbers. The presidents of 7 other veteran MCs in the region: Devil's Disciples, MC, 42 members; Steel Brotherhood, MC, 38 members; Iron Demons, MC, 35 members; Warpath Riders, MC, 28 members; Freedom Legion, MC, 24 members; Thunder Vets, MC, 19 members; Nomad Warriors, MC, 14 members. "Brothers," Warhorse said on the conference line, "we've got a situation. A deceased veteran's golden retriever has been tortured for 28 days. We found him. Now we're going to find the one who did it. I need backup," he explained. He sent the pictures of Apollo. Heavy silence. Then, one by one. "Devil's Disciples, we're 20 minutes out. Rolling. Steel Brotherhood, 15 minutes. On our way. Iron Demons, 25 minutes. Mobilizing now." All 7 clubs confirmed. 42 minutes later, 200 bikers were gathered at the gas station. Harleys lined up in rows. Engines off. A tense silence. Everyone was looking at Apollo, who was lying on a blanket, resting for the first time in weeks. "We're doing this by the book," Warhorse told the presidents. "Nothing illegal. The cops are coming with us. But we are going to make damn sure that this animal is protected, and that whoever did this pays." Everyone agreed. Ghost had already called the sergeant back, explained the mobilization, requested police units to accompany them. The sergeant hesitated. Then, "I'll give you 30 minutes to get there. Then I'm sending units. If you start a scene, you're all getting arrested. Understood?" "Understood," Ghost confirmed. 200 bikers mounted up. Doc stayed behind with Apollo and 2 other members. He would take Apollo straight to an emergency vet. 197 bikes started simultaneously. The roar was deafening, and the convoy moved out. If you believe animals deserve protection and that abusers must face consequences, subscribe to this channel now. Share this story. Show that cruelty will not be tolerated. Because what happened in the next 22 minutes was filmed on 40 cameras and changed state animal cruelty laws. 1243 Route 9 was a 2-story house that should have been demolished 5 years ago. Peeling paint, boarded-up windows, a sagging roof, grass 2 feet high, trash piled up in the yard, 2 old cars parked out front, a beat-up 2003 Dodge Charger, a 1998 Honda Civic with no rear plate. Chemical smoke was drifting from a second-story window, active meth production. 197 motorcycles arrived at 4:42 p.m. They stopped 50 yards from the house. 2 rows blocking the road, engines idling, waiting. Warhorse was at the front. He gave the signal. Everyone killed their engines simultaneously. Silence. Then, movement in the house. A curtain twitched. Someone was watching. The front door opened. Derek stepped out. Tall, thin, pale skin, sunken eyes. He saw the bikers. He froze. "What the hell?" he shouted. Warhorse got off his bike. He walked slowly toward the house. Stopped 30 feet away. "Derek Smith?" he asked, his voice calm. "Who's asking?" Derek shot back, trying to sound tough. "My name is Vincent McCoy," Warhorse said. "I'm here about a golden retriever named Apollo." Derek went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about," he lied. "That's a lie," Warhorse said. "You took him from your aunt, Mary Ann Smith, on August 15th. You said you'd care for him. Instead, you tortured him for 28 days. This is trespassing," Derek yelled. "Get out of here." "We're on a public road," Ghost corrected, stepping up. "We're not trespassing on anything, yet." That's when the other 3 occupants came out of the house. Travis, Kyle, and Brandon. All addicts, all skinny and aggressive. One of them was holding a knife, another an iron bar. "You want trouble?" Travis shouted, waving the knife. Miller took 1 step forward, 6'2", 260 pounds, a look in his eyes that had seen real combat. "Put that down," Miller said quietly, "before I make you swallow it." Travis hesitated. He glanced at the 197 bikers behind Miller, all vets, most of them bigger than him, all of them motionless, just waiting. He lowered the knife. "That's better," Warhorse said. "Now we're going to have a civilized conversation." "Where's the dog?" Warhorse asked. "Ran off," Derek answered. 2 days ago. Not my fault." "He didn't run off," Miller corrected. "He escaped from you after 28 days of torture." "I didn't torture anything," Derek protested. "Then explain this," Ghost said, holding up his phone. A picture of Apollo with cigarette burns, exposed ribs, broken paw. Derek glanced at it, looked away. "He was aggressive," Derek tried. "He tried to bite me. I had to defend myself." "Lie number 2, Warhorse said. Goldens are one of the gentlest breeds. They don't attack without extreme provocation." "And even if he had," Doc added, stepping closer, "that doesn't explain the starvation, the dehydration, the untreated broken leg, the multiple identical cigarette burns." Travis let out a nervous laugh. "It was just for fun," he said. "It's not like it's a person." Fatal mistake. All 197 bikers moved. One collective step forward. The sound of 197 pairs of boots hitting the asphalt was like thunder. Travis recoiled. Brandon dropped the iron bar. Kyle tried to run back inside the house. 3 bikers blocked the door. "Nobody in," Diaz said. "Nobody out. Not until the cops get here." "You can't arrest us," Derek screamed. "We're not arresting you," Warhorse said. "We're detaining you. Citizens' right to detain suspected felons until authorities arrive. It's Georgia, state law." That's when the sirens wailed. 4 patrol cars pulled up. 6 officers got out. The sergeant Ghost had spoken to was in the lead. "Is the situation under control?" he asked Warhorse. "Yes, Sergeant," Warhorse replied. "Suspects are detained. No violence occurred. The house contains an active meth. LeBeau can see the chemical smoke from the second-floor window." The sergeant looked. He saw the smoke. His face hardened. "Narcotics team is on the way," he said. "You all did good work. But now, let us take it from here." Warhorse nodded, but he didn't move. "With all due respect, Sergeant," he said, "we're staying until we're certain that felony animal cruelty charges are formally filed." The sergeant looked past him at the 197 bikers, all still motionless, all waiting. "Fair enough," he said. "You can stay, but on the road, not on the property." The narcotics team arrived in 12 minutes. They secured a search warrant in 8. They entered the house. What they found was worse than expected: a meth lab on the second-floor equipment to produce 4.5 pounds a week. Street value, $180,000 a month. $47,000 in cash hidden in a bedroom wall. 3 illegal firearms, 2 stolen handguns, 1 sawed-off shotgun. And in the basement, the real horror. Dried blood on the concrete, clumps of matted fur, an empty bowl. A chain bolted to the wall. Apollo had been kept chained. Piles of Facino one had cleaned. Apollo had been living in his own waste. And worse, cigarette burns on the floor. Dozens of them. All around the spot where Apollo was chained. They had been using him as an ashtray. An animal control officer was called. Jennifer Hayes, 15 years of experience. She went down to the basement. She documented everything, took 47 photos. When she came back up, she was crying. "In 15 years, she told the sergeant, I have never seen a worse case of systemic abuse. This dog was methodically tortured for weeks." She looked at Derek and the other 3 now in handcuffs. "I will personally make sure none of you ever touch an animal again," she said. Derek Smith, Travis Carson, Kyle Hughes, and Brandon Reed were formally charged with criminal charges, aggravated animal cruelty, a first-degree felony in GA, 4 counts, failure to provide necessary sustenance, felony, 4 counts manufacturing, methamphetamine, felony, 4 counts, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, 4 counts theft by deception. Derek taking the $800 from Marianne. Derek only. Derek faced a maximum sentence of 23 years. The other 3 faced 18 years each. The trial took place 7 months later. The evidence was devastating. The 47 photos from the basement, the veterinarian's testimony on Apollo's injuries, testimony from 8 of the bikers who found Apollo police body cam footage of the confrontation, partial admissions from the defendants. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. The verdict, guilty on all counts. The sentences, Derek Smith, 19 years in state prisons plus $50,000 fine, plus lifetime ban on owning animals. Travis Carson, 15 years, Sellers, $25,000 fine, plus lifetime ban. Kyle Hughes, 14 years, plus $20,000 fine, plus lifetime ban. Brandon Reed, 14 years plus $20,000 fine, plus lifetime ban. All 4 were also added to the Georgia Animal Abuser Registry, a permanent public list. The case set a precedent. The GA legislature passed Apollo's law 8 months later. Aggravated animal cruelty was reclassified as a more severe felony, a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years for systemic torture. The Public Abuser Registry was made accessible to all shelters and breeders. Fines were increased to a $100,000 maximum. While the abusers faced justice, Apollo recovered. Dr. Helen Carter, the emergency veterinarian, treated Apollo for 6 weeks, surgery to repair the broken leg, $3,800 infection treatment, $1,200 dental work, teeth broken from malnutrition, $2,400 behavioral therapy for trauma, $600 total, $12,000. The 200 bikers split the cost. Each club chipped in. None of them had known Apollo before that day. But now he was their brother. Apollo gained 13 pounds in 8 weeks. His coat grew back golden and bright. His leg healed. He walked with a slight limp, but no pain. The scars from the burns would never fully fade, but they diminished. The emotional trauma took longer. Apollo was terrified of men at first. He cowered if anyone raised a hand. He trembled at loud noises. He wouldn't eat unless someone sat right next to him. Dr. Linda Chen, an animal behaviorist, worked with Apollo for 4 months. Gradual desensitization, positive reinforcement, unconditional love. It worked. 3 months after his rescue, Apollo wagged his tail again. 4 months, he played with a ball. 5 months, he slept through the night without nightmares. But the question remained, who would adopt him? Marianne Smith passed away on September 28, 2024, 2 weeks after Apollo was rescued. She never consciously knew he was safe, But in her final days, a nurse reported that Mary Ann murmured, "Apollo, help, please." She knew. On some level she knew she had asked for help on his collar. Her last conscious act had saved his life. The answer to his adoption came naturally. Marcus Tank Miller already had 2 Goldens. He had room for a third, and he had experience with trauma. His other dogs were also rescues. "He's coming home with me," Miller said simply. Apollo went home with Miller in December 2024. It took 3 weeks for Apollo to trust completely, but when he did, it was absolute. He slept at the foot of Miller's bed. He played with the other 2 Goldens. He ate well. He lived well. 6 months after the rescue, in March 2025, Apollo was honored at a special ceremony. Apollo Day was declared by the mayor of Pinecrest. 200 people attended, including all 200 bikers who had surrounded that house. Apollo received an honorary medal for extraordinary courage and the will to survive. He stood on stage next to Miller, wearing a new collar, golden, shining, with an engraved tag, "Apollo Survivor Hero Loved." Photographers took hundreds of pictures. The favorite, Apollo surrounded by 200 bikers, all of them kneeling, all of them gently petting him. Family. There is something about dogs that exposes true human character. They can't defend themselves. They can't call the police. They can't testify in court. They are completely dependent on our kindness. And when that kindness fails, when cruel people torture them, they have only one hope, that someone good finds them. Apollo got lucky, not for the torture he endured, not for the 28 days of hell, but because in his most desperate moment, when he escaped with the last of his strength, he stumbled upon the 23 right men. Veterans who understood trauma, who knew survival, who valued loyalty above all else, and those 23 called 177 others who felt the same way. Derek Smith thought he could torture a defenseless animal without consequences, that no one would care, that it was just a dog. He learned that 200 people cared enough to block a highway, surround a house, and guarantee justice. Mary Ann Smith, in her final days of life, used her remaining strength to write 3 words on a collar. "Please, help me." She didn't know if anyone would see it. She didn't know if anyone would care. But she tried. And that act of hope, that desperate message, traveled 3 miles on the collar of a wounded dog and found exactly the right people. Apollo survived not just because he was strong, he survived because Mary Ann believed in human kindness, and 200 bikers proved her right. Because sometimes 3 words on a collar are enough to mobilize an army. And sometimes the roar of 200 Harleys is exactly what justice sounds like.